There was a time when the most powerful man in the world, an emperor draped in gold, commanding armies, ruling over millions, sat alone in his tent, writing to himself. Not letters to his generals, not orders to his advisors, but reminders. Reminders to stay humble, to expect betrayal without bitterness, to master his emotions, and to face suffering with grace. That man was Marcus Aurelius, and his personal reflections became one of the greatest philosophical works of all time. But why would an emperor, a man who seemingly had everything, need to remind himself of such things? Because power doesn't make you strong. Control over others doesn't mean control over yourself. And without wisdom, even the greatest rulers fall. Today, I'm not here to give you empty motivation or fleeting inspiration. I'm here to give you something far more valuable. 10 unshakable rules of life from the philosophy that shaped the strongest minds in history. Rules that will make you resilient, untouchable by the chaos of the world, and in command of your own destiny. These are not just ideas, they are tools, and if you truly understand them, they will change everything. So listen closely, because the world may never be in your control, but your mind always will be. There is a reason the rarest treasures are hidden, why the most powerful minds in history never spoke more than necessary, and why the world is drawn to those who do not beg for its attention. We reveal too much. We give away our thoughts, our emotions, and our presence so freely that we become predictable, ordinary, easy to overlook, and in doing so, we lose the very thing that makes us formidable: our mystery. Epictetus once warned, "Let silence be your goal. When you speak, do so only when necessary and always with meaning." But look around, people broadcast their every thought, every feeling, every moment, desperate to be seen, to be heard, to be acknowledged. They seek validation, not power, attention, not respect. And yet, it is those who do not offer themselves so easily who command the greatest presence. We must learn restraint, to let our actions speak before our words, to let our absence be felt more than our presence taken for granted. In relationships, in work, in the battles of life, never be the open book that anyone can read at a glance. Let them wonder, let them question, let them realize that knowing you is a privilege, not a right. Seneca once wrote, "As long as you live, keep learning how to live." And part of that is learning what to give and what to withhold. The world respects what it cannot fully grasp. Be known, but never completely understood. There is no greater tragedy than to be needed only when convenient and forgotten when not. We live in a world where people take what is readily available and discard it without thought. If we do not make ourselves irreplaceable, if we do not become something that cannot simply be substituted or overlooked, we will forever be at the mercy of others' fleeting attention. Attach yourself to what is spiritually superior, regardless of what other people think or do. Hold to your true aspirations no matter what is going on around you, Epictetus reminds us. And yet, how often do we diminish ourselves to fit into places that do not truly value us? How often do we chase acceptance, only to be discarded once we are no longer needed? It is not enough to be present, we must be necessary, not by seeking approval, but by cultivating something within ourselves that no one else possesses. Our discipline, our skill, our unwavering principles. In friendships, in love, in work, we must never allow ourselves to become an afterthought. The moment we are taken for granted is the moment we have given too much and demanded too little. Marcus Aurelius spoke the truth when he said, "The approval of such men, who do not even stand well in their own eyes, has no value for me." We must live not to be simply liked, but to be remembered, to be valued, to be the absence that is felt, not the presence that is ignored. We spend our lives waiting for circumstances to change, for people to treat us better, for some unseen force to grant us happiness. But the truth is bitter, and it is liberating. No one is coming to save us. No one holds the key to our joy, our fulfillment, or our peace. If we do not forge our own happiness, we will be forever at the mercy of a world that does not care whether we are fulfilled or empty. Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking, Marcus Aurelius reminds us. Yet, how often do we place our happiness in the hands of others? We let the words of strangers dictate our worth, the presence of someone define our peace, the outcome of events determine our state of mind. This is a silent surrender, a slow erosion of power until we become nothing more than a vessel, waiting to be filled. But we are not meant to live as beggars for joy. The modern world dangles happiness like a prize, wrapped in wealth, in status, in validation. And yet, those who have everything still feel nothing, because happiness is not found, it is built. It is carved out of discipline, out of gratitude, out of the choice to find meaning in what we already have. Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control, Epictetus warns. And so we take back our power, forging our own happiness, unshaken, untouched, untamed. We are not infinite. Our time, our energy, our presence. These are the rarest currencies we possess, and yet we give them away so freely, as if they were inexhaustible, as if they held no value. But what is given without effort is taken without gratitude. What is always available is seldom treasured. If we wish to be truly valued, we must first value ourselves. We must become a priceless investment, one that others must earn, not simply receive. Associate with those who will make a better man of you. Welcome those whom you yourself can improve, Seneca advised. Not all who seek our presence deserve it, and not all who call us friends enrich our spirit. The modern world thrives on immediacy, on access. It demands constant availability, mistaking presence for connection. But we do not exist to be endlessly reachable, to be drained by those who take but do not give. We must guard ourselves with purpose. We do not chase, we attract. We do not beg for seats at tables where we are an afterthought. Those who recognize our worth will rise to meet our standard, and those who do not were never meant to stay. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts, Marcus Aurelius wrote. If we see ourselves as invaluable, the world will follow. And so, we step back, not to be absent, but to be remembered, not to be distant, but to be truly desired. There is a danger in losing ourselves in the gravity of another. In making someone else the center of our existence, we shrink, we fade, we become a mere reflection of their will, their desires, their direction. But we were not born to be satellites, forever circling, forever dependent on another's pull. We are the sun, burning, radiant, a force unto ourselves. Our light does not require permission to shine. A man's worth is no greater than his ambitions, Marcus Aurelius wrote. If our ambitions revolve solely around another, if our happiness is chained to their approval, we are not living, we are merely existing in their shadow. The modern world thrives on attachment, on validation from the outside. It tells us we must be needed to be worthy, that we must belong to someone to have purpose. But that is a lie. We do not exist to be an accessory to someone else's journey. Our path is our own. We must cultivate our own goals, our own purpose, our own passions, not wait to be chosen, not wait for another to give our lives meaning. He who depends on himself will attain the greatest happiness, said Zeno of Citium. Let others walk beside us, but never let them define us. We are the constant, not the variable, the fire, not the flickering ember, the center of our own universe. And the moment we realize this, the world will be forced to see us as we truly are. No one will come to save us. No one will hand us the life we dream of, nor will they place our needs above their own. The world does not owe us consideration, and if we wait for it, we will wait forever. We must become our own guardians, our own advocates, our own saviors. If we do not prioritize ourselves, no one else will. If you do not have a consistent goal in life, you cannot live it in a consistent way, said Epictetus. And what greater goal is there than to honor ourselves first? Not selfishly, not cruelly, but with the understanding that we cannot pour from an empty cup. Too often we sacrifice our well-being to serve the demands of others, stretching, bending, breaking, until we no longer recognize the person staring back at us. The modern world thrives on our compliance, on our willingness to put others ahead of ourselves. We are told that selflessness is a virtue, that prioritizing our needs is arrogance, but the truth is, neglecting ourselves is the greatest betrayal. We are the foundation upon which our lives are built. If we crumble, everything else falls. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it, Seneca warned. And wasting time means waiting for someone else to grant us permission to matter. We must be ruthless in protecting our energy, our time, our purpose. No one will do it for us. What is abundant is overlooked. What is always available is taken for granted. This is the nature of human desire. We crave what is scarce, we pursue what is distant, and we value what is not freely given. If we make ourselves endlessly available, we diminish our worth in the eyes of others. If we allow ourselves to be at the call of anyone who beckons, we cease to be a presence of significance and become merely a convenience. We throw into yourself as much as you can, associate with those who will make you better, and welcome those whom you can improve, said Seneca. Our time, our presence, and our energy are not infinite. They are treasures, and yet too often we give them away without thought, hoping that by always being present we will be cherished. But true appreciation is born in absence, in longing, in the space where we are missed. The modern world teaches us to be constantly connected, always responding, never unreachable. But what is always accessible is never truly valued. We must learn the art of distance, not to manipulate, but to remind the world and ourselves that we are not to be taken lightly. We are not here to be at the disposal of those who do not recognize our worth. As Marcus Aurelius said, a man is as miserable as he thinks he is. And nothing breeds misery faster than making ourselves a limitless resource for those who do not deserve it. Silence is not emptiness. It is not weakness. It is a force, a presence, a statement. Yet, in our desperation to be heard, to be acknowledged, we rush to fill every gap with words, with messages, with endless proof of our existence. But what if we allowed silence to do the speaking for us? What if, instead of always reaching out first, we let absence create a question in their mind? Where have they gone? Why haven't they spoken? It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it, warned Seneca. And is there any greater waste than pouring our attention into those who do not reciprocate, into conversations that feel forced, into proving our worth when it should already be recognized? The world has conditioned us to believe that constant interaction equates to connection, but true bonds do not need to be maintained with endless effort. They endure even in silence. We must understand that if we are always the one to reach out, we are training others to believe that our presence is a given, that our words are expected, that we will always be there regardless of effort. But when we step back, when we allow space, we force the truth to reveal itself. Who truly values us? Who notices our absence? And who only responds when it is convenient? As Epictetus said, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Let them wonder, let them feel the weight of our silence. Emotions are powerful, but power without control is destruction. We have seen it time and time again. Brilliant minds undone by impulse, strong souls weakened by blind attachment, entire lives thrown into chaos because someone allowed their feelings to dictate their actions. And yet, the world tells us to follow our hearts, as if the heart is not reckless, as if it does not deceive. What we feel is fleeting. What we decide in the heat of passion is often regretted in the cold light of reason. A wise man is content with his lot, whatever it may be, without wishing for what he has not, said Seneca. But what happens when we let attachment take hold? We lose sight of contentment. We grasp, we cling, we become desperate to hold on to things and people that may no longer serve us. In doing so, we betray ourselves, allowing fear and longing to cloud what is clear. If something must be forced, it was never truly ours. The modern world thrives on attachment, on addiction to validation, on chasing what is slipping away instead of mastering what is within. But we must be different. We must temper the fire without letting it consume us. We must love without losing ourselves, fight without letting anger rule us, care without becoming dependent. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Strength is not in feeling less. It is in being ruled by nothing but reason. There comes a moment when we must decide, do we remain in a place where we are undervalued, or do we walk away with our dignity intact? Too often we stay, convincing ourselves that things will change, that people will wake up and see our worth. But worth is not something we beg to be recognized. It is something we declare through our actions. If we must plead for basic respect, we are in the wrong place. Attach yourself to what is spiritually superior, regardless of what other people think or do. Hold to your true aspirations no matter what is going on around you, wrote Epictetus. And yet, how many of us compromise who we are for the sake of someone else? How many of us lower our standards just to be accepted, to be chosen? The truth is harsh but liberating. If they do not see your value, if they do not respect your boundaries, then they do not deserve a seat at your table. The modern world feeds on insecurity, preying on those too afraid to walk away. It whispers that we must settle, that we must tolerate what drains us. But we must reject this lie. Strength is not in clinging, it is in knowing when to let go. Walking away is not a loss, it is a declaration. It is the moment we remind the world and ourselves that we will never negotiate our worth. We suffer most not from what happens to us, but from our desperate need to control what was never ours to command. We cling to outcomes, to people, to fleeting moments, believing that our grip can force the universe to bend in our favor. But the tighter we hold, the more life resists, slipping through our fingers like sand. True power lies not in control, but in release. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength, said Marcus Aurelius. Yet, how often do we waste our energy trying to shape the uncontrollable? We agonize over others' opinions, we chase after those who have already left, we drown in regret for things we cannot undo. But tell me, what has all this suffering changed? Has it rewritten the past? Has it forced anyone to value us who did not already choose to? No, all it has done is steal our peace. In the modern world, we are conditioned to believe that control equals security. We refresh notifications, waiting for a message. We replay conversations, wishing we had spoken differently. We plan for a future that remains indifferent to our desires. But the truth is simple. What is beyond us is beyond us. Our freedom begins where our attachment ends. When we release our grip, we stop drowning. When we let go, we rise. Comfort is seductive. It whispers to us, lulls us into stillness, convinces us that ease is the ultimate reward. But comfort is a cage, gilded though it may be. The soul does not expand where struggle is absent, nor does strength emerge from a life untouched by hardship. True growth, true power, comes not from avoiding challenge, but from seeking it. Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body, Seneca reminds us. Yet, how often do we recoil from discomfort, mistaking safety for fulfillment? We fear failure, so we never begin. We fear rejection, so we never ask. We fear pain, so we never risk. but in doing so we sentence ourselves to stagnation. A life without challenge is not a life fully lived, it is merely survival. In this modern world we are offered endless ways to numb discomfort, to escape struggle, a screen to distract us, a shortcut to bypass effort, a soft excuse to avoid the hard path. But nothing worth having comes without resistance. Muscles only grow when torn and rebuilt. Wisdom only comes when ignorance is shattered. Resilience only forms when we endure. Growth demands discomfort, and those who seek only ease will never touch their full potential. We do not fear struggle, we welcome it, because on the other side of challenge, we meet the person we were always meant to become. The world is loud. It tells us who to be, what to chase, whose approval to seek. It dangles applause before us like a prize, whispering that worth is measured in numbers, followers, likes, status, applause. But those who live for validation are forever enslaved to the whims of others. Their sense of self rises and falls like the tides, dictated by the fleeting approval of those who barely know them. This is not strength. This is not freedom. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." Virtue is not something we display to win favor, it is something we live because it is right. The honest man does not speak truth to be praised, he does so because truth is his nature. The just do not act fairly for recognition, they do so because they refuse to be otherwise. Our worth is not something given to us by the world, nor should it be something we beg for. It is found in how we carry ourselves, in the principles we refuse to abandon even when no one is watching. In this age of empty validation, we must ask ourselves, who are we without the applause? If no one saw, if no one cheered, would we still choose the path of honor? If the answer is yes, we have already won. From the moment we draw breath to the moment it is taken from us, this life is ours and ours alone. No one will walk it for us, no one will bear its weight. And yet, how often do we live as if our existence belongs to others? Seeking permission, explaining ourselves, bending under expectations that are not our own. But to live like this is to be a prisoner of the world, a puppet controlled by unseen hands. The only escape is ownership. Epictetus said, "How long will you wait before you demand the best for yourself?" This life is not a rehearsal. We do not owe explanations for choosing our own path. We do not need approval to chase what calls to us. In a world that constantly demands compliance, we must have the audacity to carve out a life that is truly ours. There will be resistance. There will be voices telling us to conform, to shrink, to explain, but they are not the ones who will lie awake with our regrets. They are not the ones who will taste the bitterness of a life half lived.